Thank you for tuning in to the Afternoon Pint. This episode is sponsored by Camilla Najat of Exit Realty, Strategy Up Business Consultants, and ISS Atlantic Security Guard Services. Enjoy the show.
Cheers.
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 Welcome to the Afternoon Pint. I'm Mike Tobin.
I am Matt Conrad.
And who do you have with us today?
Well, thank you, Sugar. This here is Lenore Zann, a.k.a. Rogue of the X-Men.
From the X-Men.
There you go.
That's amazing.
And we were talking about this.
I just flew in. My arms are tired.
Amazing. So, X-Men 97 has been a huge show this year. It's on Disney Plus, Marvel Television, and the Marvel Universe. It's a reboot of a very popular 90s Marvel cartoon.
We watched it. We watched both.
We watched it as kids and as adults, the new one, and it was fantastic. We loved it. The storyline was amazing this year.
They picked it right up. Yeah. It was great. And you know what I also liked about it? It felt like it aged with the people who watched in the 90s.
Exactly.
Right?
It was a real fan service type of thing.
Exactly.
It was fun to watch.
So now, are you guys telling me you were nerds when you were younger?
I played sports also, so I balanced it out.
I'm comfortable to say I was
until 2 years ago.
But,
it's cool to be nerd now.
Of course.
Is.
Nerd being a nerd is cool.
Yeah.
You know what?
Sure.
I played competitive football up until about 2 years ago, and I'm telling you, I played with, I'll call them kids, but I played with kids who were 18, 19 years old, and all of them like anime and all this other stuff,
really?
and stuff that I think is kind of nerdy.
Yeah.
But they're all into it, and I was just kind of like, all right, cool, right? I mean, we're complicated beings, right? But
yeah.
Well, I get a lot of fan mail too from people that are in the military. A lot of folks that are stationed overseas, and so back in the day, in the 90s, I used to get like snail mail, written by many soldiers who were stationed like in the Gulf War and things like that, and they were in ships, and they brought with them X-Men tapes, touching them while they were trying to like relax and take their mind off what they had to do. So I mean, nerds are everywhere.
I think the thing about X-Men though is, I mean, as much as Wolverine is always like one that's considered like a really big fan favorite, obviously Spider-Man and stuff like that, but I think when it, amongst Batman, that's on the DC side, but you're right, that's a huge one, but it's, Rogue is right up there with a lot of people, and I think at least with my age, Rogue was like number 2.
Well, she's strong, right? She's the strongest woman in the universe.
Yeah. You can take anyone's power, right?
Yeah.
The special thing about X-Men is how advanced they are and how like of a criticism it is on our society. It's so deep.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I'm diving right into it. Other things, so we're here at Big Leagues. We want to give them a shout out. We're drinking Guinness. That's a huge bowl of food.
Cod pieces with chips.
So we will talk about your book as well.
Of course.
So we are going to talk about that. That's why you're here. That's why you're going to chapters. So you're going to be over there doing...
A rogue's tale.
Yeah, doing...
Because I'm a bit of a rogue.
You are a bit of a rogue, and we'll get...
And I'll do the last one bit here. Afternoon Pint, Halcon, November 8th to 10th. We'll be at Halcon November 10th for the costume contest.
Yeah, so we're going in there for that. So we're going to be there. And
you're going to be dressed up as Wolverine, right?
Maybe. Right. We'll see about that. But, I'm sure that, everyone would love to see you back there someday. I know that you said you did it once.
Someday,
but we'll get that. We'll make sure that you know that.
Can't do it this year, but maybe next year.
Yeah, well, you're everywhere this year. Holy smokes. The thing that's special about being about X-Men, and there's a little controversy around Morph and his non-binaryism and all that stuff. Which that's a whole other topic, but the thing about that's great about the X-Men,
came and went that
it
whole
did.
Thing. Like it was like before the show actually aired.
Right.
The new show, there were a lot of people online, or not a lot. There were more people that were really excited about the show coming back.
Absolutely.
But there were some people who were like, "Oh yeah, it's Disney. They're gonna make it all woke.
Right.
Oh, they've got this non-binary character. Blah blah blah."
But he actually is fluid.
He is.
Like
or they are.
Yeah. Morph. Yeah, he is a fluid being.
They can become
or she,
anything
or
they
it's,
want.
or they, and whatever.
Yeah.
Like Morph is a fluid being.
Always was. Yeah.
Always was. But that's the thing that's lost, I think, about X-Men is there's a lot of people who were riled up about that that miss the point of X-Men.
Yeah.
The whole point from how the genius of Stan Lee, we're talking like 40, 50 years ago now, creating a group of people that are misunderstood, that are, underserviced, different or whatever.
Considered different.
And they're just trying to exist in a world, right? That hates them only because they're different and they're not understood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they want to try and make a better world.
Yeah.
Where everybody's accepted. and where everybody can live in harmony with each other.
That's right.
And that's so beautiful. I mean, Stan Lee, I wish I had met him while he was alive. But Stan Lee wrote it back, actually, they're about 60 years old.
Yeah.
He wrote it at a time when, racism was rampant and during the civil rights movement. And it was a lot to do with that. And that's what the X-Men stood for, everybody coming together and being one, brotherhood and sisterhood of man, so to speak. And a lot of people think that Professor X was a little bit like a little bit like Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And Magneto is a little bit like Malcolm X.
I can see that. The different ways of approaching things.
Right, because Magneto's kind of like burn it all down, we'll do whatever it takes.
More aggressive,
Right,
Yep.
and Martin Luther King was like, no, we need to be able to have peace, love, no violence.
Yes.
And so that's how it all came about. And now when you look at what's going on in the world today, there's still racism, sadly.
Yeah.
Right? But also there's this otherism of migrants, immigrants, people of a different faith, people from the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those folks, they've related to the X-Men all these years.
Yeah.
And many people in the LGBTQ community relate to Rogue because she can't touch anybody.
Right.
And so they've always felt like it was hard for them to be able to express their affection for somebody of the same sex because they felt they would be shunted and, and
hurt.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And so that's why it's really quite beautiful that we speak to so many people and say, they say, you helped me grow up. Like you saved me at different times in my life. This is what we hear from the fans.
Wow.
Because you made us feel like it's okay to be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
just wanted to start off with that because I thought that it's a really cool thing to be a part of the X-Men.
It is.
As much as there's, obviously Disney's huge with Marvel and all that stuff right now. They're going to get their chance.
Marvel,
Well, they're going to get their chance to do the X-Men, right? But
and then they did Deadpool.
Yes.
And Deadpool's a huge success.
That was a
too.
riot this year.
I saw that twice.
Yeah, it was a riot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was fantastic.
I got to watch it the second time with Kevin Feige.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I got to meet him afterwards and stuff like that.
Amazing.
He met me for the first time. He goes, "Oh my God, you even sound like Rogue." I'm like, I wonder why.
To everybody, you sound like Rogue. It's amazing.
The crazy thing is, too, is I'm stunned that I didn't put two and two together because the first time I met you, you were MLA for the NDP party here in Provincially, and I was up at an event in Truro, and you stopped by and we're kind of saying hi to people and stuff like that, and I was running a barbecue part of that.
Oh.
And that's the first time I met you, and I had known you because I'm a bit of a political geek, and
in Victoria Park?
In Victoria Park,
okay,
exactly,
right.
And so I was like, oh, that's cool. And I've watched you in the legislation and stuff like that. And actually, you had recently I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember my wife and I were watching the legislature, and you were giving it to someone. And we were just like, ooh, this is like reality TV, kind of like you were. It was a spicy.
Over what? What was it about?
I honestly wish I could remember.
It could have been the teachers.
It was. No, you know what?
Or the film, getting rid of the film and television
tax
tax
was one
credits.
of those. It was around that timeline.
But the teachers, I was the education critic, and I was up there fighting for the teachers and fighting for their
my wife's
right
a teacher?
to collective bargain. I bet that's
so
what it was.
So I bet you it was probably the teacher thing, because my wife's a teacher, and we were probably watching it a lot then.
That's probably what it was, yeah.
So we were rewatching it, and I remember, so I met you just like a couple weeks after that, and I remember telling my wife I met you and everything.
Aww.
That being said, though, had I known you were Rogue...
Okay, you didn't know that at the
No,
time.
I didn't know that. I knew you were in acting, but I didn't know, to that, and I was just kind of like, I would have geeked out probably back then, because I was like, Rogue!
There was something I saw about the X-Men that you guys didn't really know it was as monster of a success as it was, because at the time things were kind of different. And
there was no social media.
No social media.
There was no email.
There was mail bags, but they weren't always getting delivered, so to speak.
Exactly.
And that's crazy to think.
I know. We the cast of the original X-Men are all Canadian. I really can't push that enough.
That's insane.
It's amazing. So that show, the X-Men, the animated series from the 90s, became one of the top 2 animated series of all time. That one and Batman.
I was going to say the Batman, the animated.
Yeah.
And X-Men.
Honest, and that's in a time...
And we're all Canadian.
That was really kind of in those early 90s, it was like a highlight, maybe prime of animated superhero, because there was Batman, but there was also Spider-Man.
Yes.
They tried a couple other ones. They had Avengers and Iron Man and things like that as well. There was a lot of good animation in the early 90s that
and
you guys had to
Saturday
compete
mornings,
against.
Saturday morning cartoons. A lot of kids would like just get up out of bed and they'd watch the show. In many towns and cities that I meet people at the Comic Cons, they say that when they were kids, they used to rush home from school, depending on the time zone. Some of them would rush home from school to watch X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them would watch it first thing in the morning before they went to school.
Amazing.
But they all said that it changed their lives, it made their lives better, and made them who they are today. So we never knew the effect we were having on people until about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, just before the pandemic, maybe 2 years before the pandemic, we were invited, those of us in the original show, invited to Texas to go to a reunion of the X-Men to celebrate the 25 years of the X-Men. Mm-hmm. And we went there, and the fans were just incredible. They were so excited to meet us. And then from there, we were invited to L.A., to the L.A. Comic-Con, which is a big one. I just was at it this past weekend, actually,
I saw,
signing my books and stuff.
Cool.
And there were 100,000 people at that one, and they roared when we came out on stage to do a panel.
Amazing.
We had lineups around the block, and we all looked at each other and went, what's going on? And then finally we found out that all of these folks had been huge fans for years.
Yeah.
And we never knew it.
Wow.
Because there was no social media, there was no emails, there was no nothing.
Yeah.
And Fox, who owned the show back in the day, I found out recently that there were all these bins full of fan mail at Fox. And they were lined up down the hallway, up to the ceilings, down 2 hallways. And one of our producers for the show said, Lenore, we had no idea how popular the show was. And then we got stuck with all this mail, and we didn't know where to send it. So they never sent it to us, to the actors. We never did see it, and sadly, those kids never got us to write back to them. But now, as we're able to talk to them online and at the Comic-Cons, and it's been really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So-
really
so
fulfilling to know you've helped some people along the way.
Absolutely, yeah. It was... so back when you were recording, you said it's all Canadian cast, were they in,
They
Toronto?
were in Toronto. We were all
yeah.
in Toronto.
Okay, yeah.
I was living in Toronto at the time,
Yeah. So,
being an actor, doing movies and television and stuff.
So-
And X-Men was only my second animated show.
wow, okay. What was the first one?
The first one was one called Stunt Dogs.
Okay.
It was about stunt people. And I
Okay.
played a Southerner in that called Sizzle. And so I got to practice a Southern accent.
So it helped with Rogue.
They
then.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. You were born in Australia?
Yeah. Born
Yeah.
in Australia, Sydney, Australia.
And then
Moved
moved
to
here.
Regina, Saskatchewan for a year, where my parents were teachers. And then we heard how beautiful Nova Scotia was, and so we drove across the country, and we camped all the way along, like Banff and Jasper and Niagara Falls. And,
Yeah.
we did the whole tourist thing, but we camped all the way in a whole summer, and then made our way to Nova Scotia, to Truro, and we never left.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
We just fell in love with it.
Moved. Truro, obviously, you laid down some roots
Yeah.
because, you decided to really get involved.
Yes, yeah. Well, I bought a house, and the voice acting was great. Like I did a lot of film and television. I did a lot of theater. I did it right across Canada, and also in the United States and in Europe as well. I even worked and lived for a year in England, in London, and Stockholm, Sweden, where I did a
okay.
play.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it was fantastic, so I got a chance to live in a different country where they had different political system. They had a social democratic system. And I was very curious and very interested about politics. So the book is also about that, about my travels and about everything that I learned from traveling around the world.
This episode is brought to you by Camilla Najat with Exit Realty Metro.
Camilla Najat is an experienced real estate agent who prides herself in finding the perfect home for her clients. Camilla can help you with a comparative market analysis to help determine the value of your home if you're planning on selling, or help you determine the going rate for the neighborhood you're moving into. She can also work with you at your pace.
You can reach Camilla by calling 902-880-8429 or email camilla@exitmetro.ca.
Also, you can find her on Facebook at Camilla Najat, Exit Realty Metro.
Yeah, you were born in Australia. Mm-hmm. University of Toronto.
Yep.
I went to York University.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In Toronto.
Oh, in Toronto.
Yes,
okay,
York
yeah.
University
And you
in
studied
Toronto.
drama, arts, and political science.
And political science.
Yeah, there you go. That's weird. You
exactly.
did all those things.
Because I was interested in all of it.
Amazing. And Marilyn Monroe.
And played Marilyn Monroe was that was my first starring role.
Right.
When I was 19.
Amazing.
I got discovered over at the Charlottetown Festival.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually started at 16, my first professional show at the Neptune Theatre right here in Halifax.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It was the musical Gypsy.
Yeah.
And I got paid $75 a week. And I loved it.
Wow.
So I had an apartment here and everything, and I lived with my boyfriend, and we were in the shows together. And then I went back to school. Then I came back the next summer. I did more theater, got an apartment again. And then Charlottetown Festival the year after that, playing small roles. But, it's when you're an actor and you want to be working and learning the trade, you're happy to get it.
100%.
And then at the end of the summer in Charlottetown, I had been understudying Anne in Anne of Green Gables.
Okay.
And so I never got a chance to actually go on as Anne, which was disappointing.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the summer, they did like a concert called the Maud Whitmore Scholarship Concert. And you got a chance to perform anything that you wanted to perform that you felt could show what you could really do. So I did a song from a musical called Funny Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Called The Cornet Man. And it was a real razzmatazzy, real showy kind of number. And I walked out on stage in a trench coat and fishnet stockings and a beret with my hair in finger curls. And then I, halfway through the song, ripped off the coat and was in this sexy little number underneath the coat and did this little routine and belted out this song. And a guy happened to be in the audience who had just written a rock opera on the life of Marilyn Monroe.
Wow.
And they were looking for the right actress to play Marilyn Monroe. And they'd been searching for a year. And he turned to his wife, and the two of them said, "That's Marilyn."
Wow.
And that's
amazing.
how it happened. So you never know.
And then
You
your
just
life
never
from
know.
there just went. I mean, the book.
Yeah.
I read a bunch of notes on the book, and I mean, you've met Spielberg. You've worked
Yes.
with
Spielberg, Keanu Reeves had a
you had a
wonderful
date with
weekend
Keanu
with
Reeves?
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about that.
Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon. Oh my gosh.
Andy
Okay.
Gibb,
Yeah.
who's the younger brother of
yeah.
the Bee Gees.
Andy, yeah.
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 So so your book has the good and the bad and the ugly.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
And I mean, I think the ugly bit. I mean, paralleling with Marilyn Monroe,
Yes.
getting into
Yeah.
your 30s, addiction became a bit of a problem.
Exactly.
And by the sounds of it, where you said you had a bit of a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
sure. I mean, Marilyn Monroe was this beautiful woman who had, if you would think on paper, she had everything.
Yeah,
She had the men, she had the money, she had the fame, she was gorgeous, but she never really learned how to love herself. And what many of us do who don't know how to love ourselves is we try to fill in that void with
Yes.
something outside of ourselves. That could be a substance, that could be food, that could be sex that's not healthy, that could be shopping, addictions, gambling,
Yeah.
you name it. So Marilyn Monroe died at the age of 36 from an alcohol and drug overdose. And by the time I was 36, I'd done a lot of movies and TV and all that stuff. I'd done X-Men. Had done 4 seasons of the X-Men. We still didn't know the show was successful or
Amazing.
popular.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I reached a point in my drinking where I really hit bottom, where I couldn't keep food down. I was vomiting all the time. And I just felt like it was a crutch. I needed it in order to just live. And I reached a point in Los Angeles, actually, where I finally realized that looking at the bottom of a toilet bowl every morning was the most depressing thing you could think of how to start your day. And I realized that I was on my way to death, which, to be honest, I was self-destructive, as most addicts are. But I decided that the braver choice was to live and face all of my fears.
Amazing.
And so I got up off my knees from the toilet that particular day, and I called AA, and this beautiful black woman came to my door, and she had the hope in her eyes and the joy, everything that I was missing. And she took me to my first AA meeting. on Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
And I was the only white person in the meeting. And they loved me. And they said, Lenore, you do not know how to love yourself.
That's beautiful.
But we love you. And there's a beautiful soul inside of you. And the addict is trying to kill her.
That's an awakening for sure.
It was an awakening like you wouldn't believe.
And to think like you had all this stuff going on with your career that was successful,
Yeah.
but you didn't really know it. It's
Right.
kind of like you're doing something great. You don't see it for yourself because it just seems like you're slogging through.
And even
Yeah.
when you're like Marilyn Monroe, she had everything.
Right.
But it didn't make any difference because if
Yeah.
you don't feel like you're worthy, if you don't feel worthy and you feel like you're never going to be enough and nothing that you do is ever going to be enough and that you're not really a good person and you hate yourself,
yeah.
it's really sad, you know? But
It's
they
funny,
did.
too.
They helped. They saved my life.
Yeah,
you know?
and
and that
it's
was
funny 'cause
28 years ago.
Outside looking in, like, you know, people would think like, okay, you know, you're in Hollywood and there's a lot of glamour and all that stuff that comes. Like, people idolize that life, and meanwhile they don't know that you're waking up staring at a toilet bowl every morning.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Exactly.
You just don't know what's going on behind closed doors for people.
That's right. So many. I mean, you know, you don't have to scratch very far to find how many people in Hollywood have died of overdoses. and,
Yeah, isn't that the
you
truth?
know,
So did it come to a point for you where like acting was out and politics was in?
It's interesting because I got sober at 36, and then I finished X-Men, you know, and I went on and did a bunch of other things, more movies and TV and theater and all that. And then by the time I turned 40, I decided that I wanted to write a play about Marilyn Monroe and perform it in New York, off Broadway. And so I did that. I wrote the show in New York and LA and in Seafoam, Nova Scotia, which is where my mom and dad had a little cottage. And I went there and it just was great to write. And so I wrote this play and then I went back to New York and I put it on. And the people loved my writing, and I made it very political.
What was the play called?
It was called The Maryland Tapes.
Oh yes. Okay, that was huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very popular off Broadway for a while, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For about a year I did
Yeah.
it. And I realized that I really loved saying my own lines, like what things that meant something to me, rather than just saying other people's scripts.
Right.
And so I was like, I think it's time for me to step out from behind the mask of a character and just be myself. And so I moved home. I bought a house in Truro because I wanted to be closer to the family. And I started doing things like helping to save the old Normal College in Truro, which they were going to tear it down because they said, oh, it just
I
needs
remember
the
this.
wrecking ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What year was this,
no.
guys? Like roundabout, do you remember?
2007.
Okay.
2007, 2008. And I helped, I raised $72,000 and we did a feasibility study that showed if you repurpose it, they will come.
Yeah.
That's
Like
huge.
if you rebuild it, you know, if you turn it into something that the community can use today and keep that beautiful structure, it will be a jewel in the crown of the downtown Truro. And that's exactly what happened. Now it's our library. It's got like a little skating rink out front. Everybody commutes there, and it's just beautiful. But that was my first foray into like doing some public service. And then I was asked to run for the NDP in Truro.
What made you choose them?
Well, because my parents had always been NDPers.
Okay.
And because I'd lived in Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden, and I learned what social democracy is, and I believed in all of that, and I thought, well, that's the closest that we have to that in Canada.
Okay.
So I said, they asked me if I would run, and I thought, well, why not? Now, my mother and my sister told me I was crazy. I would never win. You know, Truro is a conservative town.
It is though too, which is crazy to think actually. Like even federally like that. I mean, we can get to obviously. You obviously won it for the Liberal Party, and we'll get to that. But like, that's even federally, it's pretty conservative.
It is, and two conservative premiers came out of there too.
Right, yeah.
Stanfield and Smith.
Obviously, the most one.
G.I. Smith, but my dad said, "Go for it. You know, what have you got to lose?" And I said, "Exactly, right." And that's been my attitude all along. It's just like, what have I got to lose? People that said, oh, you're going to try and go and get work in the States? You know, how are you going to do that? Or how are you going to get a job in L.A.? Or, oh, you're going to do a play in New York? How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You just go and you do it. I mean, and then you come back. And, you know, I've never gone and stayed somewhere. Like, this has always been my home.
Right.
And I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
So, so where were we going with that? What was the question?
You went to NDP.
Yes, the
and
NDP. So then I ran, and I won in a landslide.
There you go.
They
Yeah,
called it
crushed
a
it.
Zann slide.
A Zann slide. Good
So-
luck. Okay, so tell me, how did you win over like I guess a mostly conservative town? Like, what do you
I
think
think
did
just
it?
being myself.
Yeah.
I think people, bottom line, political parties, the names and everything, the colors, the banners, you know, you can give or take what they are. It's what your principles are and what you stand for that's the most important. And I think when people can see authenticity,
It's
you
a key
know,
part.
right?
I agree with
like
that.
they want to know that somebody's representing them, who they can trust, who is going to do what they say they're going to do, or at least die trying. You know, that they're going to give
Right.
it their all.
And let's be
Like a
honest,
sports team,
in Nova
right?
Scotia, like the three major provincial parties are not that different from each other.
True.
Right,
They're
they're
not
so.
that dissimilar.
Yeah, they're you know, like they're all kind of rushing to the center. One just leans like center left, center right kind of thing, whatever, right?
And then one's
sometimes,
in the middle.
And one's in the middle.
Right.
And some may argue that the names don't always match up.
That's true,
with
too.
How you lean and how you don't.
That's
kind of thing,
very
right?
true. That, and having been in the NDP and then going federal with the Liberal Party,
Exactly, yeah.
I can definitely say that is true.
Well, you would have
know?
been there with Dexter.
I was,
and,
yes.
And Dexter, I would say, would be not as liberal as Trudeau.
In some ways,
Yeah.
although he was very, Dexter was very social democratic about many things.
Yep.
But I think he had a lot of people that were talking to him where he wasn't necessarily listening to those of us who had the boots on the ground.
Yeah, okay.
And we were the ones that were hearing in our communities what was going on and
Yep.
what things that mattered. For instance, again, education. You know, if you're going to make cuts to education,
Ugh.
that's not a good thing.
People don't like that one.
No, and that,
You
that
don't
really,
touch education,
that
you don't
really
touch
hurt
healthcare,
us.
right?
Right. It
Yeah.
hurt us.
Yeah.
And my parents are both teachers. My sister was a teacher, so I was very adamant during that whole time that I believe in teachers and what they do, and they're very important to our society.
Yeah.
And so I managed to hold on to my seat at a time when most of my colleagues in the NDP lost theirs.
Yeah.
We had 31 seats, and we were government, the first NDP government
Yep.
in history.
Nova Scotia, yeah. Wow.
And my mom and dad and I were so happy and proud. All our friends were happy and proud. And then we lost government. We went from 31 seats down to 7, and I
you
was
lost
one
it
of
to
them.
and yes, yeah, and you were one of them. And then you lost it to a liberal government.
Yes.
But McNeil was not
Very conservative.
Very conservative. That's what I mean
Very
too. Like he was a
conservative.
very conservative liberal
Yes.
guy, right? He would be
Yes.
like kind of almost leaning right in
I
a
would
lot
agree
of ways,
on that.
right?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that kind of speaks to like Nova
Exactly.
Scotia and how the names don't matter.
Right.
It's kind of thing. And then you decide to run for
So,
Trudeau's. Liberals.
I won 3 elections provincially.
Right.
So I was in for 10 years, a
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah.
Had an apartment in Halifax, was in the legislature, in Province House. That's where I introduced my bill on environmental racism.
Yes,
The
yeah.
first time, in 2015. It never passed because by that time we were not in government.
Right.
But I kept introducing it every year. And then finally, there was going to be a federal election. Bill Casey was the member of parliament for Cumberland Colchester, and he came to me and asked me if I would like to run, but for the Liberals. So I had to have a meeting with my dad and my mom and say, what do you think? And we agreed that we felt Trudeau was very progressive. We loved his father, and that his father was part of the reason why we came over from Australia to Canada in the first
Oh, no
place.
way. Okay.
Because we'd come over in 1968 when Trudeau Sr.
Yep.
was Prime Minister, and he had put out a call to Australia and New Zealand for teachers because there was a shortage of teachers in Canada that year.
Oh,
So
interesting.
we sailed over on a boat, the SS Canberra,
No way.
with 2,000 Australian and New Zealand teachers.
Whoa.
Yeah, Mom and
It's
Dad were 2 of
amazing.
them.
And now we're doing the same thing with paramedics.
There
We
you
are
go.
doing the same thing.
Right.
There you go,
Full circle.
And this is all, and this is in the book.
Yeah.
So this is how it all starts. This is how we
Amazing.
came to Canada, and
Yep.
then ended up staying. So I flew up to Ottawa. I met with him, and I met with Jagmeet Singh to talk about representing either one of them, and I came away and went, you know what? I really relate to Trudeau. I think he's an honorable man, a very personable man.
I think when we play the questions game here in a moment, we're going to know one of your answers.
Oh, okay, all right, there you go.
We're going to get that in.
I loved him, so I said
we
sure.
We actually do have to wrap up pretty soon because you got to get to your book
get going to your thing. Yeah.
So Matt, we might as well get into the questions if you're.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go ahead.
Let's do it.
You go. You do number one.
I'm going to start number one. Okay, so these are 10 questions, fun little questions. So in X-Men 97, there's a bit of a love triangle between Rogue, Magneto, and Gambit. Which Marvel character would Lenore Zann choose as her lover if she had to pick?
Gambit.
Oh, okay.
No problem there. Yeah.
All right.
No question. That one's easy.
This next one, I think from the last bit will be pretty easy, too.
It'll be pretty easy.
We've asked almost everyone this question.
Yeah.
Between Trudeau, Polyev, and Singh, which prime minister would you choose?
Trudeau.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Too easy for that one, Nat. Number 3. If you could play any character from any other renowned book, movies, or series, who would it be?
Oh, my goodness. That's a hard one. Who
we
would
have some
it
deep
be?
stuff here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to come back to that one.
Okay, I'm going to pause on that one because there's something I forgot about. We, on this year, had Barry Dunn on the show.
Oh, yes.
And talked
that's
about
right.
the movie The Madones.
The Madones,
that you
yes.
were a
That
part
was
of.
great.
It was so great
And
to
when
be
I was
part of
doing
that.
the little bit of research for the show here today that we did, I was like, I thought of your character in that show, and I thought of, what if Lenore Zann went the other way?
Which other way?
Like, never got off drinking and
right.
alcohol and,
True.
and started to live a life of debauchery. That could have ended up being that character.
Well, we could do a show about it.
Yeah, I was just saying it could have been like that other, like it was kind of like another
that's
portal
true.
into how your life could have went.
That's true.
It's just kind of crazy. It was a great show. I watched it.
Thank you.
I really
That was when we
enjoyed it.
first reached out to you, actually. It was after we watched this.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And had Barry
Actually,
on.
that movie and another one we did here called Stage Mother by Tom Fitzgerald is a really beautiful movie.
Oh, cool. I
And they
haven't seen
can
that
both
one.
be seen on Prime Video now. You can rent
Okay.
them. Yeah.
Nice.
We'll check it out.
Okay, sorry about that.
So let's go
It's
back.
all right. I have to think about that one. I don't know yet.
All right, we'll come back to it. So your turn, I guess, question 4.
Being an accomplished actor, politician, and now author, do you have any other hidden talents? Anything that we don't know? So maybe in this book or otherwise just fun?
Well, yeah, you'd have to read the book to find out. But I
Okay.
mean, I also sing, and I will be having an album coming out in the next year.
Oh, no way.
sometime.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rogue sings.
Yes. I wrote a song, actually, for it called Mojo Man.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
About Gambit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's about Gambit.
Yes.
Sweet.
Oh,
What did
there
you
you
think
go.
of Gambit in Wolverine and X-Men? Did you like
Yeah.
the
I
way
loved
Channing Tatum
him.
did?
It was great.
He was fun. And
I had
Channing
so
Tatum
much fun.
Did a great job.
I thought he
Yeah,
was.
I did too.
I laughed a lot.
Yeah,
That
me
was
too.
Fantastic.
So number 5. So if you could travel to any place in time, where would you go and why?
Oh my goodness, where would I go? I'd love to go back to the 1800s and meet some of my ancestors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd love to meet some of my ancestors.
1800s.
Yeah, because
That's a long time ago.
it is, but that's around when they either got sent to Australia in chains
Right.
as convicts,
That's right.
young men. 2 of them, I have two on both sides of the family who were highway robbers.
Oh,
Wow.
And one was in Ireland, one was in England. They got sent to Botany Bay in Australia.
How did you figure all that out?
Ancestry.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah.
did the DNA thing, and then I met all these cousins and people that are
Oh, wow.
related. And,
Insane.
And we
Okay.
put it all together. Yeah, it was very
Cool.
interesting.
very cool.
Yeah.
Number 6. I think that's you.
Was that me? Okay. What's your favorite thing about life?
Life.
What's
Yeah.
your favorite thing about life?
Life,
Something you enjoy?
life.
Life itself?
Just life itself.
Life
Okay,
itself.
good. Just being on this side of the dirt.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
You dog, cat, or nun lady?
I have had both dogs and cats. I love them both. I love them all. I love animals, period. I love animals. But I did have 3 Shih Tzus, and they all died, one after the other. One at 17 years old, one at
That's
15, and one at 14. So
That's pretty long life.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
You're up.
Have you ever gotten in a fist fight?
No, I've never had a fist fight.
Disappointing, but okay, we're moving on.
Yeah.
All right, question number 9. Name one conspiracy that you are uncertain of, but but you think could actually be real. So it's
Well,
conspiracy theory that you make-
UFOs.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So like the Roswell.
Well,
and
not
stuff
necessarily
like
that, but just UFOs. I mean,
Okay.
I think that could be real. I think that there's probably life on other
Our
planets.
Halloween
Yeah.
episode, we touched on that. We have a paranormal investigator on
Just before,
Wow.
when this episode airs.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's on there. He talks about it. He's a former police officer who investigates that
Wow,
stuff. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
love stuff like that. I'm really interested in
I
all
kind of
that.
thought with the whole Marilyn Monroe connection, she was going to go with the JFK was, like silenced.
Assassinated.
Yeah, silence type of
well,
thing.
you never know. That could be true too.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, but that could be true too.
All right, last question.
Yes.
Because we're going back to question 3, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. What's one thing we could all do to make the world a better place? That's every one of us.
Be kind.
Oh,
That's
Be
a theme.
kind.
that's a huge answer on
Yeah.
the show all the time.
Yeah.
Premier said that too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I oftentimes say kindness is free.
Yeah.
Doesn't cost anything. And if you just take that extra time to be nice to somebody instead of like snapping someone's head off or jumping, the gun online, everybody's so quick to anger and
Yeah.
to be like
Perspective
sad.
and seeing the animosity on
Right.
social media sometimes I'm just like, what the heck is all this about? When the aurora was going on,
Yes.
and everyone
was nice to each
putting
other.
up colorful
Right.
pictures all night, and everybody's like, oh my god, and loving each other's photos. Like, man, too bad social media wasn't like that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like, it was so lovely last night.
I agree.
It was really cool.
I agree.
Yeah, really
Well,
cool.
So watch X-Men and
Hopefully
get
they'll
the
tune
deeper
in.
meaning.
Yeah, tune into X-Men.
Yeah.
Tune
X-Men
into the X-Men.
97.
Another season's coming out in 2025.
2026, they say.
20
It'll probably be.
2026.
It'll be
I have
about
to
a
wait
year.
that long?
That's
Yeah.
a long time to wait.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've
But-
recorded all my lines, but they have to now animate it.
But you
okay.
can now read
All right.
Lenore Zann's book, A Rogue's
Yes,
Tale.
That's
you
right.
Can.
Yeah.
And you can answer maybe that question number 3 if you got a quick answer.
Roll. I'd love to do a lead in a TV series that's maybe like a detective.
Oh, okay.
She's a detective, and maybe she rides a motorcycle,
Oh,
and so she kind of lives a bit on the edge, but
Okay.
she's.
I
But
think
she's-
they
wouldn't
do
that
a
be fun?
female reboot of Dick Tracy.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. I think you can take that. Run with that.
With
Run
the
with that.
trench coat with
Yeah.
the fishnet tights underneath.
You could.
That'd be cool.
Green and yellow.
That would be cool.
A little bit of throwback to
You
like,
heard it
road
here,
thing.
folks.
There you go.
Lenore Zann, absolute pleasure
You know
meeting
what?
you.
Pleasure,
yeah,
man.
Absolute
Cheers.
pleasure. Yeah. Thank
cheers.
you.
We'd love to talk to you again.
We'll have to do this again.
Yes.
Anytime. Anytime. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to The Afternoon Pint. We are an independent podcast and we need your support. Please take a moment to hit that like, follow, and share button. Email us if you have an idea or suggestion for the show. Please send your feedback. We'd love to hear from you.